If you are older, prioritize passing down your faith and modeling integrity and wisdom. You know, the challenge with people who are older in the church is they often feel forgotten. I mean, I'm not in possibly an older age demographic unless you ask my teenage son, then I'm an old person, right? But sometimes when churches hire or maybe they go after or maybe they start to communicate that the idea is they want to go after younger people or people with families, you feel left out because you go, that doesn't describe me. And part of the reason is, it's not that we don't care about you. It's that you're not the generation we're concerned of. Do you know the average person, you know what the average attendance is in a church per month for the average person? You know what it is? 1.6. That means the average person goes to church 1.6 times a month. Now, if you're older on the spectrum, you show up far more than that because it's been ingrained into your culture. You're used to going to church. That's what you did. The younger generation doesn't do that. Part of it is our fault. It's because the church has sometimes harmed them. Or sometimes they just go, that's not relevant for me, and they don't really know why Jesus is relevant to their life. And part of the best witness about why Jesus is relevant and can change their life is not going to be some guy talking on the stage. It's going to be an older person who has modeled and lived faithfully with Jesus for many years, who can pass down wisdom and faith and credibility and integrity. So if you are older, you are not finished. God still has plenty for you to do. And I'm going to name one of them. Volunteer in the kids ministry. And people chuckled at that in the first gathering too. You guys did a better job. They laughed pretty hard. And part of the reason, I don't mean this to be funny, I really don't. It's not a joke. Part of the reason I put this up here, and you can look this up, when an older person is connected to a younger person, that older person lives longer. If you want to live longer, join the kids ministry. That's a great way to do it. But the other thing is, like, imagine if I came up to some parents and I was like, hey, can I mentor your kid? They'd be like, get away from me, creeper, immediately. But when a grandpa or a grandma does that, or someone who has had wisdom and experience come up and say, hey, I just care about your kid and their faith, can I help mentor them? You're more likely to say yes. They're more likely to say yes. And you have the time and experience and expertise. The second one is kind of like this, volunteer in the youth ministry. It's not your generation that we're concerned about. It's the next. That's why every church has, and I'm going to use a very a more serious word than invitation. I believe it's your responsibility as a person who has been a Christian for a long time. If you are older, I think you have the responsibility to pass down your faith to the next generation. And my guess is you want to do so. You want your kids and your grandkids to have the same joy in Jesus Christ that you have. I just want to give you some ways to do it because sometimes people just don't know. We have a wonderful kids ministry and a wonderful student ministry, and you don't have to be cool to join either of those. You know what you need to do? Be present. Kids and students these days don't need someone cool. They need someone who will show up because many of them don't have people in their life that do so on a regular basis. And that can be you. The third one, mentor and help young families. Have you ever seen a young family out to lunch? They always have the same look on their face. This was a horrendous mistake bringing my kids in public. It's the same face all the time. My wife and I used to do this all the time. We would go out to eat and we'd be like, oh yeah, we remember why we don't do this. They're terrible. And months would pass. We'd be like, do you think it's okay? And we'd go back out and we're like, nope, still bad, still bad. The reason I bring this up, and not just when they're eating, is that, wouldn't it be so cool if there's a young family, and life is expensive, especially for young people, and I'm going to get to them next. Life is expensive. Going out to eat is like an act of rebellion because it's so hard to not only bring your kids out in public, even if they're great behaved kids, because marriage is hard, parenting is hard, and life is expensive. Even if you just bought their meal, you know what a gift that would be? I can't tell you how many times I turned to my wife, I was like, we just spent $50, which is cheap now, $50 for our kids to argue, for us to almost divorce, and all of us to hate our food. That's what happens. But imagine if you helped, or if you just saw some people And to be like, I'll do childcare. I'll mentor your kids. I'll be in the student ministry. I'll do that. Why don't you go have a date? Because they don't do that either. You know what a gift you could be to young families or just a young person? You still have so much to give. So young people, again, I'm not going to define that. You define what that looks like. If you are younger, here's my suggestion to you. If you are younger, prioritize leaning into your faith, acting with self-control, and doing good works. If you're older, you want to pass down your faith. And if you are younger, my encouragement is to lean into your faith. And there's a very simple reason. Everything in the world will try to push you away from faith in Jesus Christ. And it takes an act of rebellion to lean in, to say, man, this Jesus guy might actually be different. And maybe giving my life to him would change who I am and what I've done. Lean into your faith. Don't be coaxed by the world that Jesus isn't worth your time, because he so is. And I'm going to give you 3 recommendations as I talk about young people real quick. Again, I apologize for going over. The first one is attend on Sundays and join a group. I already told you, the average person who is a good churchgoer comes 1.6 times per month. It's not enough for community. And quite frankly, I'm not that interesting to listen to 1.6 times a month. I'm not interesting 4 times a month. But you know what is interesting? Being with other people in community. And young people, we could learn so much from them. You know, when you get older, you want community. You want to have friends and family to grow old with. When you are younger, you need community, and you seek it to the degree that is so inspiring. If you are a young person, every time I meet someone who's here, they automatically come up to me, and I realize I'm not young anymore. I was like, man, that was like 20 years ago. But I look at them, and they're same comments and question. They never say, hey, the message was great, the worship was good. Even if they mean it. You know what they say to me? Are there other people my age here, and how can you connect me to them? It's for sure the right comment. I don't care if they care if my message is good. What I care is they get connected into the body of Christ, because that's what Jesus has asked us to do. And so attending on Sundays and joining a group, if you're a young person, is the quickest and best way to find community. Number 2, say no to worldly pursuits. How Jesus will change you is he will make you, or he will hopefully entice you to go, I want to say no to that because it was never good for me before, and following Jesus is definitely not good for me. It may be to put down your phone, to stop looking at pornography, to put down liquor, to start treating people better, to stop chasing money, to stop chasing the next hot person. I don't know what it is, but for many of you, you just have to say no in order to have a deep connection with Jesus. And the third one is to volunteer and be visible if you're a young person. If you're a young person and you want to seek out other people, the best way is to volunteer and be visible, because someone else will come in and they'll look for you. And they'll say, those kind of people, my kind of people, go to this church. And they'll stay and they'll connect. And they'll see that Christianity is not just an old fledgling religion for old white people who have nothing to do. Because that's how they see us. And it's not. Jesus was a first century Jewish man who compels people of all races and walks of life to give their life to him. And the next generation has the task of taking this forward. No matter what you look like, no matter how old you are.